just an odd film. And okay, for cinephiles, a movie about the making of Breathless, I thought it was amusing. But I mean, these are two movies. I'm amazed that they got made. And I'm not saying that because they were bad, but I mean, like, who's the audience? But I watched them both and say they're both worth watching. But I don't know if did anybody catch either of these films?
I do well back, like for sure, the audience is me. Like, if you, if
Well, you
no,
better go and you
yeah,
better watch it a few hundred times.
yeah, like a movie. Like I love movies that are about our love for movies, and
Yeah,
I'm sure, like
yeah.
you're saying, like how this movie was made. All I was thinking when I was watching the film was how much fun Linklater had himself
Oh yeah.
because of recreating all those scenes from Breathless.
Totally.
And mostly, yeah, so he had
And
definitely
fairness,
he
just
had
to
so
interrupt for a
much fun.
second. It was a Netflix movie, so of course that explains that one. The other one I think was a pure theatrical. But
Right.
the reason that got made is because Netflix made it. Keep going.
Well, and I think Blue Moon is finally on Apple TV, so I've been waiting to see that one.
Yeah,
Sorry,
these
Yasi, I didn't
type
mean
of
to. I
movies.
mean,
No,
I
no, no.
apologize for
Of
cutting you off.
course. No, of course. Like these type of movies, like Jay Kelly or a Blue like even Blue Moon or Nouvelle Vague. They're all like they all remind me of Woody Allen's Purple Rose of Cairo or Stardust Memories. Those are like. The love stories to cinema, like Cinema Paradiso, like
Yeah.
those type of movies. But it's uh, like uh, how how we project our uh, our fantasies of movies and our love for movies into the movies that we watch also. And this is very interesting to me. And I think like being the movie was made in black and white, and the way that each character was presented in Nouvelle Vague, they all had this. So Linklater's kind of innovation type of signature on the film.
Yeah.
So I understand that it was a bit emotionally distant because Godard was, he was. Let's just say it, like he was a snob of, of a filmmaker. They all were. They were, the characteristically very different. And the movie is so self-conscious of that. That I think the way that it was so fragmented was because of all the jump cut styles of Breathless kind of mirrored that sense of the movie. But I think I think Miranda wants to say again, like she probably has to say something about a Nouvelle Vague. Uh, but and about Blue Moon, yeah, they're the chamber piece, like uh, chamber piece style of movies. They're not for everybody. They're yeah, I understand that about, but again, like I think I was watching Ethan Hawke and I thought, how is he doing this?
It
And
is really, it's underappreciated as one of the better acting performances of the year.
I don't think it's underappreciated. I think he's getting all the flowers that he
Oh,
deserves.
okay. Maybe I just didn't, I haven't been looking in the right places. I really thought he was terrific.
I mean, he's the whole movie. It's the whole movie. Like 20 minutes in, you kind of understand what you're getting yourself into. Okay, this is a movie about like where the whole movie is going to be a long monologue of this guy. So he is the one who's supposed to make this movie likable with his performance, even though like his look is not likable. So and I think he kind of delivers
Yeah,
at some point. Yeah.
he
So
does. And
and yeah, it's Linklater. If you're like going to him, you should understand like either because I think the movie was made in 15 days or in 20 days, something like that. Either you're like Boyhood, you're in his project for 30 years, or you are in his project for
For
15
10
days.
minutes. Yeah. That's funny. I have to say, as soon as it ended, and well, no, while I was watching it, I found myself saying to myself, how did this screenplay get written? This is like so specific. And I didn't know the background. Like, this is so specific. This is just weird. And then, when it ended, I looked it up, or I maybe even read it in the credits. I don't remember that it's based on these letters that were found like in a bookstore or something between Hart and this woman at Yale. And then it all made sense because a lot of the dialogue did feel a little unnatural to me because I think that Linklater took a lot of it, from these letters and he just put the words in Ethan Hawke's mouth. So there's an odd quality to it, but there's also something I liked about it. I mean, and I thought the Ethan Hawke performance was terrific. And on Nouvelle Vague, look, as a movie lover, as a one-time film professor, I certainly enjoyed it on some level. Uh, but but it's just an odd movie. It's if you're not an absolute cinephile, I'm just not sure why you'd have any interest in that movie.
Was it an
Uh,
epistolary to begin with, or was this an original script from the letters, Steve?
Um, I can't
That I can
remember.
help.
Do
I
you
can
do
help
you
with that.
remember who
Yeah, yeah,
wrote
yeah.
it? I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
think
Robert
someone besides
Kaplow.
Linklater was definitely involved in the
Yeah,
screenplay.
it's Robert Kaplow, and
Oh,
it's
right, right,
interesting
right, right.
because because we mentioned Soderbergh, and Soderbergh in Black Bag, he like this is a famous collaboration of scriptwriter and filmmaker between Soderbergh and David Koepp. So every time that those two come together, like they do good things. With Robert Kaplow, he also did another movie with Linklater, which was Me and Orson Welles, and that also was about like based on like a series of letters. And he wrote the documentary. I mean the movie based on those letters. So that's what these two do together, like they collect a bunch of letters and take out movies from them. Yeah, so and nothing else. Like he has like in his whole career, he's actually a New York Times writer, a columnist, and yeah, the only cinematic collaboration is with Linklater in the
Yeah, see, and you kind of made a good point on that. I pretty much agree with that, all of the points that you made. I was kind of being quiet. I'm sulking in my favorite right now, but of my other movie, but not moving on from that on Nouvelle and then Blue Moon. An interesting thing. If you look at the Easter egg and a lot of link letters and um stuff, you go back, let's go back to like Before Sunrise. There's a little Easter egg where Ethan Hawke has a line as in Ethan Hawke's Jesse character in the first of the Before trilogy, which no one ever thought that was going to be a trilogy because it didn't do well when it first came out, but it became a cult favorite, and it's like my favorite romantic dramas of all time. But it was just beautiful how they followed that journey. But there's a little thing when they're sitting on the train and he's getting to know Celine, and he talks about telling a story, different stories. You know, whether it could be like like in Blue Moon with the letters and Chronicle, or things like, I think what it came closer to like what happened with Boyhood, where they literally told that in real time as the character grew up. But he was like, "Oh, about a man, and he's making the coffee and he's doing this," and I'm going, so many Easter eggs were put into Before Sunrise that you see in these other Linkletter movies that have come out. And it's like he's been wanting to tell these stories. I have a feature that actually was supposed to get made that was actually loosely based on a collection of stories. When I was writing in the script, it started out with called this surreal thing. And the only reason why I didn't get made is we had a producer that took off with the money, and you hear that all the time in sometimes indie films. This was in the 90s, and it was a a script that I wrote that had a loose. I took a very loose about stories you find about a man and you don't know about him until you read the letters, and it's like, but it's mine was like a poetic kind of thing, and it kind of tells this journey, and it actually added a layer to something I had already started, and when I was writing that, so I appreciate what Linkletter does in that. But I feel like he's been putting the Easter eggs. He put those Easter eggs, even if you go back as far as his first film that just blew us away, like with Slacker, you know, stories that, there's that absurdity in there, but it just kind of keeps going forward and it takes you on a journey, whether it's through love letters or long letters found to people. Um, I remember I was in an old bookstore in the 90s one time, and I actually bought the book, and it was about love letters that were written by different people, from whether it was Oscar Wilde or my favorite romantic poet John Keats. It was like different stories, and it was called Love Letters by Antona Fraser, and it was just, I thought it was just a beautiful book. It was just a hidden gem. I don't know what I was looking for. I think it was in the time in the 90s when I was spending time in bookstores, and I thought, okay, I'm buying this, because I was sitting in the I found myself sitting in a corner reading it for 2 hours, and then I was like, okay, this needs to go on my coffee table, and I thought I lost the book, and my mom found it in some of my stuff, and I was like, yes, put that aside because I want that back when next time I go back to Texas and bring it back with me to LA. But yeah, I think he's been putting these Easter eggs in there. And you see that if you go back and watch Before Sunrise, or you watch Slacker, or go to YouTube and watch It's Impossible to Learn to Plow by Reading Books, you know? That one's a harder one for me to get through. And I love Linkletter, but I was like, that was his first feature. And it's just kind of, sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to be wide awake on that one. But I did like it, but it's a lot. But yeah, he's been putting these little Easter eggs in all his movies about what he's wanting to tell, and I think that's why I appreciate um the things like Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague and all that. It's been there, and I think there's something in the story. Maybe it's not told the way all of us like it, but you know, as a passionate for film and as a storyteller, I think there's beauty in that. Okay,
Cool.
I'm done speaking.
I want to mention a pinned link. I originally put it in the chat and now I've pinned it. Not because I'm particularly endorsing anything it says, but it's such a mind-bogglingly comprehensive list that I had to post it. I found a Reddit post. I saw 290 movies in theaters in 2025. Here is my full ranking. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So I figured, hey, if there's just one place to just catalog every possible movie you could have possibly considered seeing this year, here's a list of 290 movies. This is mind-boggling. And he just ranks them, or she. I actually didn't notice whether it was a he or she, although this sort of behavior strikes me as much more likely to be a man. Um, Uh, it goes from 10 out of 10 all the way down to, I assume, 1 out of 10, maybe even 0 out of 10. Uh, Mind-boggling. So if you're just looking for a comprehensive list of what you might have saw or missed this year, that's a pretty insane link. Um, I don't know about my two co-hosts here, but I probably have another 15 or 20 minutes at most. Um, can I make one confession? I'm really nervous about making this confession, and maybe I need a little therapy. But I noticed that some of the most I have not seen The Testament of Anne Lee, which I have a feeling I'm really going to like. And I believe that that's a female director. But three of the other films directed by women this year, two of the three that I'm going to mention, I was so disappointed. And one of them I kind of liked, but it was still a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Die My Love, A House of Dynamite, The Mastermind, three different genres, all female directors. And I don't think I went into any of them even cognizant that it was a woman director. But I noticed this pattern. Like, is there something wrong with me? Is there
No,
something about the way
The
there's nothing wrong with you.
women approach directing
Hang on, Alexander.
that's different, that I'm not appreciating? What is going on with me?
No, there's not.
Well,
Well,
You're just
yeah.
stating the
can
obvious.
the
hold
Mastermind is
on,
actually near the
Alexander.
bottom of my worst films of the year.
Hold on.
So what, like,
Steve, what was it? Can you put words to what
well,
you
every
didn't
film is
like about them?
different. I didn't identify anything about them that I thought had anything to do with them being directed by women, but I did notice that, like, Die My Love, I mixed feelings, but a lot of people really like it. And I think one person in the room today said that they loved it. Um, Kelly Reichardt, I am obviously familiar with, and I've really never liked any of her movies. I think this is the one I liked the most of her movies, actually, but I still kind of left me foul. A House of Dynamite, I couldn't have been more bored. I mean, it was just boring. I just don't know why anyone thought it wasn't boring. But I did start to notice that the delta between the general opinion and my opinion of films, I just noticed that it seemed bigger with regard to female directed films. And I'm really, in a self-critical way, I'm kind of asking myself, I don't know. Is there some kind of reason why I'm not connecting with female directed films? I don't,
No,
maybe
I
it's just a coincidence.
well, I haven't seen any of the three, so but my question is was the content specific to gender in some way?
No, no, not at all. I
Well,
mean,
then
other than in Die My,
Oh,
I mean,
Die
Die
My
My
Love was
Love
for sure.
was, but no, and I haven't seen Testament of Anne Lee, which is also very much, and I
okay.
have a feeling that looks like it's up my alley. But no, I wouldn't say House of Dynamite and The Mastermind, not at all.
I have a
Um,
theory. I have a theory
Lay it
because
on me, man.
I
I want
I
to be
agree.
psychoanalyzed.
I agree with you, Steve. I mean, kind of a similar thing with comedians. There's like maybe one or two good female comedians who actually like make you laugh, mostly male. I think the reason here's my theory. I think it's because to become a filmmaker is actually quite dangerous. You have to put yourself in a lot of risk, off if unless you're born into it or whatever. But if you're just kind of coming up, living poor, crashing on couches, surfing, taking odd jobs here and there, you can't really do that as a female. It's too dangerous. And I think the women directors who are able to direct films come from a place of privilege, or they're born into it, like nepotism. And so they're missing that whole edge, that whole life experience being run through the grinder that I think
Interesting.
kind of gives it heft. I'm sorry if that sounds misogynistic,
Well, and I
but
don't know. I mean, I don't know the biographies. I know Chloe Zhao, and I know her biography, and I loved Nomadland, and I liked but did not love Hamnet. But I don't know the background or the biography of Lynn Ramsey or Kelly Reichardt. So I don't, or
either do I, but I
Catherine
could
Bigelow.
guess.
So I don't really know anything about them. So, but interesting.
I think the very fact that you would say that you don't know them, but that you would guess that,
Well, look at
Alexander,
Sofia Coppola. I mean,
pretty much says everything about your
not
perspective
real.
on this.
I
I'll
mean,
leave
well,
it.
am I wrong? What am
Uh,
I? What was I wrong about?
Well, okay,
Well,
wait,
we have
stop.
one.
Wait, wait,
We
wait,
have
wait.
one. We have a woman filmmaker on the stage. Like, Miranda, are you coming from the?
This room is now like I was enjoying it, and then now it's become depressing and sad.
Let's not
Um,
let's not ruin it. I don't
but
want to.
but no, I have not come from privilege. By the way, I live pretty.
Well,
People
we're
tell
not
me you
comparing you to
stop being
Sofia
so
Coppola,
humble,
though.
but I'm not going to talk step and step. There's filmmakers like Allison Anders, and there's a bunch of female filmmakers out there that are just excellent, and some don't. I mean, sometimes it's the ones that are getting made, and it also is harder for women to make movies because they're not being heard. You know, people go round and round and they make fun of Julie Delpy, maybe because she's French and they don't like that. But I think she's actually beautiful, excellent. She's one of my favorites, not just as an actress, but as a director. You
And I
know,
and
there's a,
I've
and
loved
she's not necessarily privileged either. But
yeah.
there, it also defines what is privilege. Not counting Sofia Coppola, I like her movies, but there's a difference on some things. Anyway, that's all I gotta
I,
say. Elle, you put it beautifully on what you were saying. So I don't know. The room was getting a little depressing. I was starting to
we
get.
yeah, I don't want to turn it into any kind of negativity. Sarah Polly's films I've really, really enjoyed. One of my favorite directors ever is Agnes Varda. So yeah, maybe it's just a 1 year idiosyncratic thing, and maybe that's all it is. But yeah, getting into like psychoanalyzing, yeah, no, that other thing. Let's just Alexander, no disrespect. Some people obviously don't like what you said and think it's not cool, but I don't want to turn this into a debate about what you said. That's just not what this room is about at all.
Yeah, just like about like one of the movies this year, If I Had Legs I'll Kick You, is
Have
from
not seen it
you
yet.
know the it's uh, you know, Mary Bronstein made the movie, who like her husband is Ronald Bronstein, which is the scriptwriter for Marty Supreme. So, and the same, you know, last year with the Cohen brothers, like actually, it was this actually debut about this, that the movie, the Dollhouse, like the actually Ethan's wife made the movie, but just because she knew, like if she goes with this like kind of campy horror movie, it would not get the attention. She put her husband's name on the movie. So I think that says a lot. Or Alpha, another movie this year, Julia DeCarno. Nobody's talking about it, which I found the movie very interesting, very fascinating. So I think that would be a little bit, you know, women behind camera always gets the hate. It like it's completely understandable. Yeah. So you're right. Maybe we can like, but yeah, and that's why you see why the reason why we just thought why. So anyway, like just to come bringing back like the hype to the room is like with oh, and you mentioned Kelly Reichardt. So about Mastermind. So that goes back to the question that I made at like halfway in the room, that why like some types of neo noirish characters they don't get the attention. I think it's because we expect movies to give us this instant, you know, feeling, this instant reaction. What happened with Mastermind to me was practically the movie grew on me. Like
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, now I admire it because I see the layers of political commentary on the film. And I think like you know, he's a guy who, you know, he's, you know, the American fraud. He's the entitled, self-deluded kind of man that now we're dealing with. You know, he's so kind of ignorant to everything that is going on around him. And I think you see, like with Paul Thomas Anderson, and it's interesting because what's her name? Elena Heim, that plays also in Mastermind. She was in Licorice Pizza, and Licorice Pizza did not get that much attention as Paul Thomas Anderson because this type of kind of, you know, layered, very like movies with depth, and very jazzy that you know, remind you of also like Nouvelle Vague, the very Alain Delon kind of Jean Paul Belmondo type of characters. We need to allow them also like how brilliant like Andrew. I wanted to say something about Andrew Scott, so I'll like I'll talk about it later. But I think we should allow these movies to grow, and we should constantly think about them, you know, to uh, the admiration for some movies, they don't come instantly. The problem is right now it's this trend of people come out of the cinema and they make these YouTube videos. So my come out of the cinema, reaction, the reaction, like while they're watching a movie. So I would never like give like the instant reaction. It would never be accurate. Like don't trust the instant reactions to anything. I think we should allow everything to grow our feelings, and we should like give movies a little bit of thought, because that's what they deserve. Like, and one thing that I was hoping that before you go, that I was hoping Ken would come up on the stage, because I thought like he might help us on this, because like look what's happening with Warner Brothers. And interestingly enough, all the major movies this year, they're all coming from Warner's.
Well,
So I was wondering like what would be the
yeah, interesting. We may or may not end on that, but we do have a new person on stage, Julie. Um, and I want to say too, just one thing in reaction to what you said before we go to Julie. The whole issue of rewatching movies, and your opinion can change without actually rewatching, just from, letting it percolate and reflecting. But also rewatching came to mind when you said that, Yahtzee. It is interesting because I feel like, I remember back when we were doing film talk regularly, and good to see you, Julie. Because that, I know that's where we met, I think. It one of the rooms we had was about, to be truly great, does a film need to be rewatchable? And like, and how important is it that it be rewatchable? Um, and you're kind of talking about or raising the flip side of that, which is to even appreciate what a film is, and really gauge how you really feel and think about it. Do you need to see it more than once, or at least, give it some time? And I do think that's a valid point. Some movies, I feel after I watch them, I want to rewatch. I feel like there's more there, and I feel like almost often when I'm not sure how I feel about a movie, it makes me want to re-see it. Um, but the Mastermind, just to be clear, I kind of liked the Mastermind. I didn't love it, but I liked it more than I think any other Kelly Reichardt movie. But I just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with that. Julie, welcome.
There we go. Hey Steve. Yep, we met before. And this is Film Talk, right? The
This
house.
is
Yep.
film talk, but seriously, I don't think there's been a film talk room for at least a year and a half and maybe 2 years.
You're right. Well, I've met you in film rooms before.
Oh,
So
for sure,
yeah,
for
that's
sure, for
yeah,
sure, for
that's
sure.
true. That's true. So yeah, so I saw the room, best films of 2025. I won't go through my full list. I'm sure you guys have already had that conversation. I agree with you, Steve. I think you cannot rewatch a movie but change your mind about it later through reflection. I'm somebody who loves to watch a movie, then go read the reviews, you know, and talk to other people about the movie and see what they felt. Sometimes I watch a movie and I know right away I'm going to need to rewatch it. Sinners was like that. Sinners is my
Julie,
favorite movie of the year. Yep.
Julie, I want to interrupt to say one thing. I'm old enough to remember when nobody read reviews before you saw the movie. The whole point of reviews was that they were think pieces about films. And of course, it got completely turned on its head. Now it's just like Rotten Tomatoes, right? We just, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down. Should I go see it or should I not go see it? But, it didn't make sense to read the class. I mean, it didn't make sense to read, you can go back to, Cahiers du Cinema. It didn't make sense to read any of that before you saw the movie. So it is ironic how now it's really just become consumer reports. It's just like, which toaster should I buy? That's what film reviews have become. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I totally agree with you. As you guys, well, for folks who don't know, I'm a journalist. I do book reviews now. I used to do film reviews a long time ago when I was first starting. Anyway, yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Steve. I don't understand how you can have a conversation with a film, and hopefully people understand what I mean when I say that. Like film is anyway. like some films you see, you're like, I'm having a conversation as I'm watching it. After I'm watching it, I'm thinking about it, I'm contemplating it, what was going on there. Not every film is going to be like that. And it doesn't mean like, oh, I love the film or I don't love the film. Marty Supreme is a great example in my mind. I don't know if I like that film or not, but I know it's a good film. I know it's a great film. Um, so this whole idea of the thumbs up, thumbs down, I've got to get my YouTube reaction video up, as soon as the early screening is showing. Like, I really hope people see this list on Reddit, that you've got pinned here, and go watch all these films. My top three films of the year are Sinners, Frankenstein, and Sorry Baby, which I'm sure are films you guys have already talked about today.
Amazingly, not that much. Sid, I would say, is the only one we've talked about for more than 90 seconds of those.
Wait, you guys haven't talked about Frankenstein or Sorry Baby?
I'm not kidding. I'm not
Yeah,
saying they
I
weren't
mentioned them.
mentioned. They were mentioned, but we've not talked about them at any length. So if you want to say something about why you liked any of those three films, or all three of those films so much, by all means.
Okay, so I'll be really brief. Frankenstein is the movie that I wish Del Toro had won the Oscar for, because it's a deeply personal film for him, and you can sense that as you're watching it. I don't know what people feel about Frankenstein. I don't know if people have read the book Frankenstein. Please go read the book. It's a brilliant book. It's very close to the book. And I wish people could have seen it in the theaters. I had the pleasure of seeing it twice in IMAX. Or sorry, three times, because I saw it at the Toronto International Film Festival. Um, it's a gorgeous film. It's well worth it. You don't even need to know anything about Frankenstein or even enjoy previous Frankenstein films to watch it. And then Sorry Baby, I bought that film. Excellent directorial debut, by Eva. It's like really heartwarming, even though the subject matter is quite intense. It's a beautiful film, and the fact that this film is still in conversation, um, tells me, like, I just love that people have found it. Each one of these films is so different. I think Frankenstein and Sinners are the most similar because they're both within the horror genre, even though I'm not a horror person. But they just got me. And then I will mention It Was Just an Accident, because that's a film you guys haven't talked about as well. Very excellent, international film set in Iran. The ending is, I would argue, the best ending of a film I've seen this year.
Um,
I got a
I
question. I don't
want
want
to.
to interrupt.
How many? Sorry, before that, I'm going to try and do this without a spoiler, and I think I can. Of the people on stage, or maybe even in the audience, who have seen that film, It Was Only an Accident. I have a question, which after I saw it, this was a possibility raised by one of the two people I saw it with. It was my son's favorite film of the year. My question is, the last thing that happens in the movie, is it really happening, or is it only in the character's mind? Did it occur to anyone that he's not really hearing what he thinks he's hearing, or that he's not really hearing what we hear on the soundtrack? Anybody? Did anybody read it that way, that it was just in his head? Anyone?
I thought it this way. I thought like it was just happening in his head.
You did think it was just happening in his head.
Yes.
I
Excellent. Anybody
I
else?
I never had that thought until you said it, and
Yep,
now that makes me go watch the movie again. To be
It's
honest,
funny because,
I
again,
agree. It does.
I think we can do this without spoiling it for anyone. The film becomes way more interesting if it's only in his head. It's such a statement about what the movie is about if it's only in his head. So I think it's a really interesting reading of the end of the film.
I'm just gonna have to watch it again. I love this idea.
Yeah,
I
me too.
haven't seen it yet, but the link is in the chat, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it was my son's favorite film of the year. He and I talk movies constantly, one of my two boys, and it was his favorite. It was his favorite. I really liked it, but it definitely was not in my sort of top group. The tonal shifts were a little hard for me. Um, and so I liked it, but Palm d'Or seemed like a bit much. But also, I felt like some of that was just for the feat of getting it made, and the importance of it, um, as opposed to necessarily how much I was entertained by it. But definitely a film worth seeing for sure.
Well, I agree with you, Steve, and I'll put it out there. If for international film, right, for that category for the Oscars, I want Sentimental Value to win. I think that's a better
It's a
film.
great category this year, actually. I really, of the films that are likely to be nominees, The Secret Agent was actually my favorite of the foreign language films that I've seen. But it's a really strong category this year. I mean, you have the Palm. I mean, we don't have the final nominations yet, but you're likely to have the Palm d'Or winner, the I forget what they call it at Cannes, but the Grand Prix winner is Secret Agent, right? So right, it was only an accident won the Palme d'Or. Secret Agent won the grand prize. You have Sentimental Value. What are the other two going to be?
No other choice.
No Other Choice, which we haven't. That hasn't been brought up today.
Oh yeah, that
Very
hasn't been.
very entertaining film. I thought. I think really the best description of it is a black comedy. Um, Very entertaining. Yeah, that's a really strong category. I'd venture to say it's really a stronger category than the best picture category this year.
If that's the category, I agree. I agree that we know Best Picture is going to have a couple in there that are that's I would I would go on a limb. That might be one of the strongest international film categories we've had in a very long time.
And sorry, there was someone else I think who had unmuted that wanted to say something, and I sort of cut. No, maybe not. Maybe not.
No,
I don't.
Secret Agent is not on the category. The Walter Salazar's, because I'm Still Here was last year, so I thought like maybe Secret Agent has a very good chance
Yeah,
on
God.
the internet.
Yeah, boy, talk about a 2 years in a row for a couple of great Brazilian films.
Yeah, we could rave about I'm Still Here all day long.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here we are. We made it 2 hours, Steve.
I
I
liked I'm
would.
Still Here more than Secret Agent personally.
I did too.
Well,
But I
I think
really,
I'm
first
still.
of all, I love Brazil and I love Brazilians, and I've spent
Me too.
a ridiculous amount of time there, 10 trips. So part of it I knew was my love for Brazil and Brazilians. But even putting that aside, I thought it was a pretty darn good movie. And I thought that Wagner Moura was really, really good in the film.
It's a phenomenal film. So I would suggest, Steve, that we reconvene after the new year to maybe do a room on series, best series, because
A
I'm
movie
thinking
on
about
what?
series,
A TV series.
film series, like right, or film TV series, whatever series. Like for example, Adolescence or others.
Got it,
I
got it,
know
got
you
it.
didn't love that one, but series that
You
I'd
you
love us to
guys,
delve
I would
into.
totally be up for that, but there's no way I should moderate that because I watch so little TV. I will be there and I will listen and I'll make a list, but
Of Argentina called The End of Love. It was fantastic. In fact, I think you would love it, but I know you don't do.
yeah, I eventually catch up with the ones that everyone's talking about, but like I've never seen Mad Men. So it's like, I'm just yeah, I'm no good for series.
Yeah,
So
Well,
one other movie that no one talked about this year, and I'm saying this because there's a famous a Ricky Gervais joke that he says that there's this website that does dog die in this film, And he makes a very funny joke about that, about movies that dogs die. So this year, in 3 movies, dogs died. And it was just an accident. In Die My Love and Marty Supreme. So I thought like the movie that really worth mentioning on that regard is Cut Stealing with Darren Aronofsky's movie
Right.
with a brilliant cat actor in it. So I thought like we should also mention that as an honorary.
Yeah, see, there's also Sarah's Oil where we think the dog died, but it really didn't. Spoiler
Thank you.
alert.
Let's
Yeah,
have a room just on movies where dogs die. I think that would be very good. And my all-time favorite, and I say that facetiously, movie where the dog doesn't die. I'm going to end on this story, and then I'm going to turn it over to Elle and Yasi to end any way they want.